Thank you, and I appreciate all of our speakers sticking to their time limit because we do have a lot of issues we want to cover. We also have a lot of materials on the back table. These issues that we're talking about were reflected in a great deal in the civil society submissions that were coordinated by the U.S. Human Rights Network, and we also have here with us today many of the coordinators and contributors to those submissions. So the range of rights that may not be reflected on this panel, but that were reflected in the civil society submissions to the UPR process. We're going to welcome questions on any of those topics, and we've got people here who can speak to that. Mary, I think, highlighted well the intersection of public and private rights, and thinking about what is the obligation, what are the human rights obligations of government where private parties get involved. And obviously that's nowhere more apparent than in the area of employment, where you have a private employment relationship, and thinking about what are the affirmative obligations of the state in ensuring that people have a right to access to decent employment and all that comes with that. And so we're pleased that we have Elce Redmond from the South Boston Coalition Community Council here with us to talk about the right to decent work.
Thank you very much, and I also want to rise and thank the U.S. Human Rights Network for this opportunity to bring the grievances of the people, not only in Chicago but across the country, into this international arena. Our communities are suffering through an epidemic of joblessness that threatens the very fabric of our nation. We have marginal communities that are incredibly suffering through this epidemic of joblessness. We have young people who have maybe a 40 to 50% unemployment rate. We have people with disabilities, and when we talk about people with disabilities, we're talking about people with all types of disabilities, whether they're wheelchair users, have mobility impairments, or are deaf, or have developmental disabilities. They have an 85% unemployment rate. We have ex-offenders and immigrants who have an incredible high unemployment rate, as well as the chronic unemployed. Yet, the issue of joblessness gets attention in the United States, but no real organizing traction. What we have done with our coalition members from all across the country is to talk about the need for a national jobs program in the United States. A national jobs program that's similar to the programs that were created back in the 1930s under President Roosevelt, the Work Progress Administration and the Community Conservation Corps. Our national jobs program would put people back to work by rebuilding the infrastructures of our communities, our schools, our bridges, our roads. They could provide health care for children, as well as care for the elderly and the ill. We're looking at how do we, some of our colleagues were talking about the issues of foreclosures. We have massive amounts of foreclosures all across the country itself. People can be put back to work rehabbing those foreclosed homes and putting families within those homes rather than having them abandoned within our communities itself. We asked the question, how can we pay for such a massive program itself? In the United States, there's this whole discussion about deficit reduction, that if we spend more money, we will destroy our deficit and we cannot pay back our bills. Our whole sort of response to that is that we can pay for this massive jobs program, and one of the ways to pay for it is by having the very institutions, the banking institutions whom we bailed out in the United States to a tune of $700 to $800 billion, the massive insurance companies that tax those who are ill, that we can have a jobs program that can raise at least about $700 billion through what is called a financial transaction tax, which is a tax on financial transactions that the major corporations go through on a daily basis. This tax could be somewhere between 0.6% and raise somewhere in between $740 to $800 billion. Enough money to put the people in our communities back to work. Unfortunately, that's not a very popular idea with big capital itself. The banks would fight against that tooth and nail. That's why it's important for sessions like this in the world community to really look at what needs to be done in the United States to put these marginal communities back to work. The crisis and epidemic of joblessness is not just affecting the United States, but it's a worldwide issue, and it's global in nature. And it has a lot to do with the corruption and greed of capitalism, as well as poverty within our world itself. Here's an opportunity to use this financial transaction tax. Our brothers and sisters in London call it the Robin Hood tax, where they have taxed major corporations as a way to rebuild the infrastructure of their country itself. And bringing this campaign to an international community puts pressure on the United States. Currently, we're organizing around the financial transaction tax. Currently, we're organizing around a national jobs program. And currently, we're mobilizing not only people with disabilities, but the chronic unemployed, immigrants, ex-offenders, women, or a large number of folks who are unemployed, into an organizing campaign to say that the very corporations who caused the economic crisis within our country should be the ones to pay to put people back to work. Thank you.